Staten Island. Located south of Manhattan, between New Jersey and Brooklyn, this borough tends to be the forgotten borough. From the north shore of Staten Island to Manhattan, there is a free 25-minute ferry that runs 24 hours a day. In St. George, on the New York Harbor, where the ferry arrives, the New York Reel and the Empire Outlets have begun development. Heading south along the eastern shore, a residential complex with shops and cafes called Irby has recently been finished. Also along the waterfront, next to Irby, there is a new waterfront park with sustainable landscape and nice views for the public. Also along the waterfront, there are docks that provide locals to work on service boats. However, there are also areas along the waterfront that show signs of damage or abandonment. The three teams traveled south along Bay Street, the historical core. Each team traveled inland at different points. Unlike the rest of New York, Staten Island has wide streets, allowing its residents to park their cars comfortably. In some areas along the main roads, there are mixed-use buildings. At the bottom of the hill, there are manufacturing buildings. However, some of them have recently been abandoned. Most of the churches, schools, and civic buildings still retain their original architecture. Most of the residential housing is located at the top of the hill. Along the lower elevations of the island, there is minimal landscape, or some areas are simply unkept. Along the higher parts of the island, there are fully developed landscapes with richer ecologies. There is over 400 feet in elevation change from the exterior to the interior of the island. In the northeastern shore area, there are two parks along Bay Street, Tompkinsville Park and Tapp Park. The cultural diversity of the population consists mainly of white, African American, Hispanic, and Asians throughout the island. Unlike the other boroughs, over half of the population employed in Staten Island uses their personal cars to get to work. Over 35% of its population uses buses or trains as a means of transportation to work. Starting at St. George Terminal, there is a 14-mile, 21-station commuter rail line heading south along the eastern side of the island. However, this rail line does not run very often, and some locals even find it unreliable. Staten Island has many distinguishable characteristics. Some of the topics we will continue to discuss is the issue with transportation, cultural diversity, and its access to its waterfronts.